What would you see in the last seconds before death? Carl Gustav Jung saw the Earth from space, vast and glowing with brilliant blue light. Then an ancient temple carved into a rock, where all the secrets of life are revealed. And his own doctor, who came to tell him, "You're not allowed to leave yet." In 1944, after a near-death experience, the world-famous psychiatrist went through something that made him say, "I no longer believe in life after death. I know it." Today, you'll hear the full story of his visions. Get ready. This one actually changes everything. I was 68 years old when I broke my leg. Soon afterward, I suffered a heart attack. While I was hovering on the border between life and death, I began to have very strange visions. It was thanks to those visions that I realized my earthly life would soon come to an end, recalled the world-renowned psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung. Yet the winter of 1944 did not turn out to be Jung's last after all. The doctors managed to bring him back to life. Later, Carl Gustav Jung described in detail what he had experienced during his clinical death and what thoughts those incredible visions had led him to. It's impossible to say with certainty whether my visions were real. But one thing is clear. Something truly extraordinary was happening to me at that moment. It seemed to me that I had risen high above the Earth and was now floating in space. I saw our planet shining with a breathtaking blue light, Jung said about his vision. Stunned by the incredible beauty of the sight, Jung began to study the continents and oceans spread out far below at his feet. Later, the psychiatrist learned how far from Earth one needs to be to see it exactly like that. It turned out that in his vision, he had risen roughly 1,500 kilometers above the planet's surface. While he was admiring the Earth, Jung suddenly felt himself being pulled farther away. Finally, he turned away from the planet and saw a huge stone mass floating past him. It was drifting through the endless expanse of space just like he was. Then the vision cut off abruptly, and I found myself standing right in front of the entrance to an ancient temple carved into a cliff. I knew with absolute certainty, if I stepped inside, I would learn everything about myself and my life. All the secrets would be revealed to me, everything that came before me and everything that would come after. That's exactly what Carl Gustav Jung was thinking at that moment. But Jung was not destined to enter the temple. From the doorway, his own doctor, the one who had been treating him, descended the steps toward him. The doctor was surrounded by a bright glow. They began to communicate without words through pure thought. From that silent conversation, Carl Gustav Jung understood that his doctor had been sent with an important message. He did not have the right to leave earthly life. The moment I heard those words, my doctor vanished instantly. I was not allowed to climb the steps into the temple. The next second, I came back to consciousness and found myself lying in a hospital bed. The nurse who had been looking after me told me that while I was unconscious, my body had been surrounded by a bright light. She had seen the same thing before when caring for dying patients, Jung later noted. The psychiatrist later admitted he was furious with the doctor who had brought him back to life. After everything he had experienced, the ordinary world felt like a prison to him. Along with the disappointment, he felt deep anxiety. Jung was firmly convinced that if, in his vision, the doctor had come from the realm where all knowledge is revealed, then that doctor's days were already numbered. From the book Spirit and Life. I tried with all my might to talk to the doctor about this, but he simply could not understand me. I had to warn him to be extremely careful. I was his last patient. On the 4th of April 1944, my doctor took to his bed and never got up again. They told me he had developed high fevers. Soon afterward, he died from blood poisoning. He was a good doctor. Before these events, I had never written about life after death, because I had no way to prove my thoughts. But now, I feel I must speak out on this subject. Even if I turn out to be wrong in my reasoning, it still needs to be said. It seems to me that if I don't do it, I will lose something very important, Carl Gustav Jung once said. Jung always emphasized that there is no definitive proof of life after death. However, there is personal experience that forces us to think seriously about it. He called this experience not proof, but simply a hint at the existence of the soul. Jung considered several other events in his life to be exactly such hints. For example, once he was thinking about the death of a friend whose funeral he had attended the day before. It seemed to me that my friend was standing right in my room and inviting me to follow him. At first, I explained the vision as nothing more than a trick of my imagination, but I still decided to follow my visitor. We went outside, walked through the garden, and found ourselves at the house of the deceased. He led me into his library, a room I had never been in before, Jung recalled. His friend took a chair, climbed onto it, and took down the second book from the top shelf, the second of 5 books with red covers. The experience gripped Jung so strongly that the very next day he went to his late friend's house and asked the widow to let him into the library. Standing on the chair, Jung saw 5 books in red bindings. They were works by Emile Zola. He took out the second volume and read the title on the cover, The Testament of the Dead. It was precisely moments like these that the psychiatrist considered hints of the soul's existence. He received yet another similar hint at the moment his wife's cousin passed away. The psychiatrist dreamed that his wife's bed had turned into a deep pit, and from it rose the figure of a woman in a nightgown. I woke up and immediately checked the time. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I instantly thought the dream meant someone had died. In the morning, we learned that my wife's cousin had passed away exactly at 3 o'clock that night. Of course, we cannot know for sure what these stories really mean or what kind of reality lies behind them. We must clearly understand that we cannot be certain about things that lie far beyond the limits of our understanding. If another world exists, it operates under completely different laws and remains inaccessible to our imagination. 2 years before his own death, Gustav Jung gave an interview. During that conversation, the psychiatrist was asked whether he believed in God and whether death is truly the end. Jung answered, "I do not believe in God. I know. To know there must be a reason, and if I have knowledge of something, I do not need to believe in it. I can also say with complete certainty that death is not the end, because there exist psychic phenomena that are not bound by space and time. You can have dreams and visions of the future or similar experiences. Such phenomena have always existed, and only ignorance can deny these facts. They show that our psyche does not depend on the limitations of space and time. From this it follows that the psyche does not obey physical laws, and that points to the continuation of life." Jung came back from the other side with a message that still echoes today. Death is not the end. It's only the beginning of something far greater than we can imagine. So the real question is, are you ready to listen? Let me know in the comments what you think happens after we take our last breath. Smash that like button if this story gave you chills, share it with someone, and turn on notifications. The journey is just getting started.